A tragedy in the sky.
Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river.
An American Airlines jet and military helicopter collide in the air. A rescue mission now turned recovery operation.
We don't believe there are any survivors from this accident.
From the uncertainty.
I kind of just thought, like, what if that was my plane, and kind of worried me a little bit, but nothing too serious.
To the search for answers.
What happened yesterday shouldn't have happened. It should not have happened.
And the investigation now underway.
We'll find out how this disaster occurred and we'll ensure that nothing like this ever happens again.
Live team coverage of this breaking news starts right now.
A loss of life in an aviation accident is very unusual in the United States. And our heartfelt sorrow goes out to everyone that's affected. It affects us, it affects everyone around us. There are a lot of people hurting today. We will help find out what happened.
The NTSB is on the ground in Washington, D.C., leading the investigation into this midair collision.
Yeah, to recap, it happened just before 9 o'clock last night when an Army Black Hawk helicopter collided with an American Airlines jet as that plane prepared to land at Reagan National Airport.
And this is the deadliest aviation crash in the U.S. since 2001. President Trump said that there were no survivors earlier today, and CBS News is reporting that at least 28 bodies have been recovered from the Potomac.
Tonight, we're learning who was on board the plane and the copter.
We've got live team coverage from Ohio and Michigan. Brian Duggar, Chase Bachman, Laura Sandlin, and meteorologist John Birchfield are all standing by with the very latest.
Tonight at 6, we begin with Brian. Brian, what are you learning from the NTSB and other sources that held news conferences about this investigation?
Yeah, we know the NTSB had 50 crew members on the ground, and its headquarters is actually within miles of the crash site. So they were on the scene very quickly last night. And we know the agency is going to be very thorough with its investigation. But information from FlightAware indicated that American Airlines 5342 had descended to about 400 feet just before 9 p.m. last night. Originally set to land on the main runway, the plane was shifted to runway 33, which isn't used as often. Now, video from near the scene shows the Black Hawk coming up quickly on the plane, and cruising speed for a Black Hawk is about 175 miles per hour, though we do not know how quickly this helicopter was traveling. Now, FlightAware data indicate the jet was traveling about 130 miles per hour, but all of this will be confirmed by the NTSB.
I think the press also likes to state what probable cause is before we get to the probable cause. So what I'm going to say is you need to give us time. You need to give NTSB, it's not that we don't have information. We do have information. We have data. We have substantial amounts of information. We need to verify information.
Now, locally, the NTSB was on the scene last year when 4 people died on the Ohio Turnpike in August. In that case, the preliminary report came out in about 30 days, and the final report is expected to be out later this summer. Now, that report will give findings and recommendations on how to prevent another serious accident. I expect this incident is going to follow the same timeline. Reporting in studio, this is Brian Duggar for WTOL 11.
We're learning more about some of the victims of last night's tragedy as well. The Associated Press says 3 soldiers were aboard the helicopter. CBS News has also learned the crew chief on the chopper was 29-year-old Ryan O'Hara. The American Airlines plane had 60 passengers on board and 4 crew on board. Those 4 crew members were based out of Charlotte. U.S. Figure Skating confirms the passengers include 14 figure skaters from the U.S. National Figure Skating Team. The Skating Club of Boston lost 2 coaches, 2 young skaters, and their mothers in the crash. Top figure skaters from Russia were also on board the flight. We can also confirm a U.S. figure skater from Toledo was not on board the flight. Lindsay Fitzpatrick did compete in the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita this past week. She posted on her official team Instagram this morning that her heart goes out to everyone on that plane and their loved ones.
I mean, it was just devastating, of course, and there's already so much devastation right now. It just felt like one more piece of the crumbling world.
WTOL is talking with flyers about their feelings on going in the air following the news of the collision in D.C. Chase Bachman live at Detroit Metro for us tonight. So what else are they saying to you, Chase?
Well, Jeff, we've been talking to flyers here at Detroit Metro Airport, and they've all basically said the same thing. It was a terrible tragedy, but it's not enough to get them to stop flying. They say the chances of something like that happening to them are very, very low. In fact, the National Safety Council says the odds of getting in a car accident are 1 in 93. Meanwhile, the odds of getting in a death in a aviation-related accident are almost too rare to calculate. They say in the last time since there was a major aviation accident in 2009, there have been tens of millions of flights, and so the chances of something happening to you up in the air are very, very low. The flyers we spoke with say all the time, even though the news was terrible, they fly, and they say they just have to keep on going, living life, and they trust the airline industry to keep them safe.
I mean, all we can do is keep living our lives, right? Like we can't, I mean, it's devastating. There's a lot of devastation, and as a people, we just have to keep moving.
You know, it's one of those things that happens, and it's unfortunate, and you just can't let it bother you. You got to keep going, you know.
Everybody should still feel safe to travel, and I think that overall our government does a very good job.
And so we asked flyers, do they expect the FAA to make any sort of changes? They said they do expect them to eventually make some changes, but again, they feel very safe flying right now. Reporting from Detroit Metro Airport, Chase Bachman, WTOL 11. Jeff?
Chase, thank you. Elected officials from the Buckeye State offering their thoughts and prayers tonight. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine said the collision was a terrible tragedy, and he says Fran and I join our fellow Ohioans in offering our prayers to all the victims and their families. Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur said her thoughts and prayers are with the families of those service members and air passengers lost in the tragic crash. We sat down with Toledo Mayor Wade Kapsakavich, who tells us he just flew out of Reagan National Airport last week.
It's hard to come up with words to just think about what those, and especially what those families have to be going through, especially, you know, when you hear about the incident and you don't know if there's any survivors, and now it looks like there aren't.
Reaction continues to come in from across the state and across the country. You can read more of those reactions right now on our website, WTOL.com. Weather, of course, plays a significant role in aviation, and there have been questions raised about the conditions before and during the flight.
Yeah, the weather is probably one of the first things people looked at here as a possible cause. Meteorologist John Birchfield examined the weather data in Washington last night. And John, you said the weather does not appear to have been a factor here.
Yeah, Melissa, the sky was clear and there shouldn't have been any meteorological factors, although the icy cold waters of the Potomac, for any passengers that did survive that impact force, it can cause rapid hypothermia. But as far as the collision itself, does not look like the weather played a role. So let's break down the weather impact and what conditions were like in Washington, D.C. yesterday evening just before 9 o'clock p.m. Visibility is obviously the first and foremost factor that affects aviation, and the sky was clear and visibility was totally A-OK. So that was not an issue whatsoever. There was no precipitation and only some light clouds that were reported. The icy Potomac River was anywhere from 33 to 36 degrees, so any passengers that did make it at least into the waters would have likely experienced some severe medical symptoms very quickly. And there was a little bit of a breeze with 15-mile-per-hour winds, but for an aircraft, that is essentially a non-issue. The sky was clear. There was a little bit of cloud cover up near Baltimore, but nothing that would cause any obstruction to visibility whatsoever. And zooming in on the site of the crash, we talked about those icy cold waters of the Potomac. The survival time typically in water temperatures like that is only 30 to 60 minutes. Even a well-trained athlete like a figure skater likely to lose motor control within several minutes and go unconscious within 15 to 30 minutes. And of course, the search and rescue turned search and recover efforts inevitably affected by those icy cold waters. Here's another look at the site of impact there, the airplane path coming in from the south and the helicopter path coming in from the north, just to the southeast of Reagan International, where that collision took place. And of course, those icy waters not making it very easy to do the search and recovery. 33 to 36 with chunks of ice that have been present, and the water's about 8 feet deep, but they are kind of murky and obscured, so it makes it very difficult to do that search and recovery. So as of now, Jeff and Melissa, weather does not appear to play a role in the collision itself.
Alrighty, thanks so much, John. Well, as you mentioned, the Potomac very, very icy and cold. The search and rescue and now recovery efforts involved multiple departments and hundreds of emergency first responders. Laura Sandlin joins us live to continue our team coverage tonight. Laura, you talked with some local agencies about what it takes to respond to mass casualty events like this. What did they have to say?
Melissa, I spoke with Deputy Chief Barrett Dorner with the SWAT and Fire Division. He says every situation requires a different response. He says that every year departments work together as a team, so that way in case something major happens, departments are able to focus on the response, adapting to the environment and the situation. Current practices include applying skills they've learned from other events, such as car accidents and other events where they have to triage patients. With organization and teamwork, Deputy Chief Dorner says partnerships play an important role as it helps to find places where the team can improve.
We train with our partners on a regular basis. There are certain requirements for certain situations. The airport's one of them. We participate in those drills as a secondary agency. But that is something that we think about quite often.
Deputy Chief Dorner says that these drills are meant to help normalize the response to mass casualty situations, ultimately leading to more efficient and effective response time and recovery. Reporting live in downtown Toledo, Laura Sandlin, WTOL 11.